Everyone. Today we are going to learn meshing in SolidWorks. Meshing is a very important concept in finite element method, or you can call it also as finite element analysis. Not only SolidWorks, every software uses finite element analysis. So meshing is the basis. You can say it is the foundation of getting a desired result you want. So if you want an accurate result, the result which is similar to the real life conditions, you need to mesh the surface, mesh the body properly. So it depends upon all the loads and whatever fixtures, constraints, whatever you give. So you can see here I have opened a simulation advisor. SolidWorks as native simulation advisor. So it is used for beginners who don't know the concept of simulation. You can just go to simulation advisors. All the properties which are present there, it will be given there. So it will be under new study. So you can go for study properties, and before that you will have simulation advisor. So you open this thing. So it is like just a help concept. So now I'm going to show how to create a mesh. So there are two options here. One is coarse mesh and one is fine mesh. Coarse mesh is nothing but very big rough core mesh, and fine mesh is, as the name suggests, a very thick mesh. So given coarse mesh, and the SolidWorks software just ignored it. Why? Because the element size which are given was much larger than the body, so it ignored that. So I am using 15 mm now. As you can see, the software wanted me to use curved based feature for meshing. So as you know that this model is having curvatures, so that's why the previously the mesh did not accept it. Now you can see I'm giving different element sizes. The element size is also important concept in meshing. So it is nothing but the distance between the meshes. It is the distance between the elements and the nodes. What are the elements and nodes, I'll discuss in later videos. You can see here the mesh at the end, uh, to the mesh at the center of the body, and this mesh of the hole is much different in curvature. That is why, because SolidWorks and understood that at the holes there will be a very high stress concentration. So the stresses will be very high at that holes. So it automatically gave a finer mesh to get the most accurate results. It knows that at the center or the flat faces is not that much required to find out the accurate stresses, but at the center it is very important. As you can see, at the middle of the thing we have fillets, also curvatures, smooth curvatures. So at that area also it has given very fine mesh. So it understood that those properties, those parts will be very important according to the user. So you can see I can give much smaller element size. I am trying a much smaller element size than the previous one by the default one. So you can see it is simulated. You can see the dots, 3 or 4 dots there. So it shows that, indicates that mesh control has been applied. If you go into the mesh and use controls, you can give a mesh control at different parts of the materials of the body. Not every time the whole body will be of use. Sometimes we require a few parts, few places only to have much importance, so you can give much accurate results at that moment of time. So you can see there, compared to the previous hole, this hole is having much finer mesh. So I'm experimenting a little bit. I'm decreasing and increasing the size of the mesh. You can see that I have given 100 mm. Now I'm going to give a very finer mesh for you to see. I will give at the edge, that is smooth curvature, I'll give 0.01 mm. You can see previously it took 2 to 3 seconds for the mesh to apply, but now you can see 10 to 15 seconds has passed, but mesh has not been created. Now I'm going to fast forward this video a bit. It will take around 50 to 1 minute to create the mesh. See, as you can see here, it is almost 50 seconds, but still the mesh has not been completed. So an error has come. it is saying that mesh entity is much bigger than the fillet. So it is asking us to increase the mesh element size. The curvature was much smaller than that. So I'm going to give 0.1 mm. We'll see what happens. As you can observe, a lot less time has taken, and you can see the difference between at the hole and at the fillet. So this is how you can give your element size. So it basically means that you want a very accurate result at the corners rather than the other parts of the body. The finer the mesh, the more accurate the results. Now you can see I'm going to mesh details. So if you want what are the element size, what is the mesh quality, how many nodes are there, how many elements are there, you can check all those details relating to mesh there. Now I'm going to show you mesh quality plot. So you can may create the mesh accordingly. Suppose these things are important when you're going for an project or anything. You can show what is the quality of that mesh, where you will get given fine meshes and where you can give very coarse mesh. You can show in the form of an image. So you can see I'm giving some color. I'm showing the aspect ratio. There are different options. You can give aspect ratio on color and Jacobian points also. You can see now I've given aspect ratio. It is giving a basically a color indication. Some values are also being given below there. So it is basically to represent in form of a color image. You can show the different mesh sizes. So you can see now I've given in the forms of Jacobian, and you can see different things there. Color settings also you can do. You can do the mesh parameters in terms of mm, centimeters, or whatever units you want. So this is a brief introduction to meshing. We'll talk about meshing in lot depth. So going to the so now we are going to see another example. Just wait for a few seconds. I'm unsuppressing all those things. Some errors have occurred here. So here you can see another example with a differential setup. So I'm going to create a mesh for this one also. Basically, I'm going to create a mesh for the gears, bevel gears and whatnot. So you can see there, and there's a 3-type bevel gear. I'm going to apply a mesh. I'm going to make some adjustments here. I'm going to create mesh. So I'm showing how the mesh element is seeing. Now also it's showing us to create curve based features. So you can see a basic mesh has been created. This is for a shaft. You can say it's body of the gear. I'm increasing the size and you can see the difference for the whole element.